This day in sports history. It's January 4th, and on this day, a big old plate of humble pie was served up. Cleveland had another heartbreaking loss, and time may not wait for any man, but for some, it does seem like it creeps by a little bit slower. I'll have those stories, plus a non-sports fun fact at the end about ignoring your household chores in the name of science. Back in a few.
And that's the end of the first half. As the teams head to the locker room, the Spartans lead the Bulldogs by a score.
You guys stink. Geez, Coach, we're only down a couple of points. No, I mean you guys really smell. You need to hit the showers. And here, I got every one of you new bars of soap from the Sterling Soap Company. Each bar is artisan crafted using natural ingredients and essential oils. They also have shave soaps, colognes, beard balm, and a whole lot more. Now get in there. But Coach, we have another half to play. I don't care. I can't stand to be around you. A few minutes later. All right, bring it in tight. You guys are still playing terrible, but you're smelling great out there. Now listen, you're going to need to stock up for the rest of the season. We got a lot of tough games left. So go to sterlingsoap.com after the game. That's STIRLING soap.com. You got that? Yes, Coach. Great. sterlingsoap.com on 3. 1, 2, 3. sterlingsoap.com. So let's start with what happened on this day back in 2004, when maybe a little less hubris would have been a better choice. I mean, I get it. Confidence is good. You want your pro athletes to have a lot of confidence in their abilities to get the job done. But it can also lead to a generous portion of humble pie being served up nice and hot if things go a little bit awry, like they did for Matt Hasselbeck on this day. So, this was an NFL wildcard game between Hasselbeck's Seattle Seahawks playing at Lambeau against the Packers. Hasselbeck spent the first 2 years of his career in Green Bay as the understudy to Brett Favre, so it is understandable that he wanted to show his old team what they missed out on. With less than a minute to play in regulation, the Seahawks' Shaun Alexander scored and the PAT tied it at 27. The Packers had a kick to win as time expired, but Ryan Longwell's 47-yarder came up just a little bit short, and then during the coin toss prior to the overtime, Hasselbeck decided that a little bravado would sound good.
What do you call?
I'd like to call heads.
Heads is called.
Look at him, he's laughing.
Heads! Seattle has won the toss.
We want the ball, we're going to score.
Turn around.
Oh, boy. How about that from Matt?
Seattle's won the toss. We'll receive.
So, in case you missed it there, Hasselbeck said after the Seahawks won the coin toss, "We want the ball, we're going to score." So, a confident quarterback working on manifesting win, nothing wrong with that, as long as you deliver on that promise. Because if not, you better grab a towel to wash that egg off your face. On their first possession in the OT, the Seahawks faced a 3rd and 10 from their own 45.
They're coming. The pass is picked off. Intercepted. Back the other way. The Green Bay Packers advance. Touchdown, Al Harris.
Yep, Al Harris with the pick and the 52-yard return for the touchdown left Hasselbeck choking on that crow. Green Bay won, advanced to play Philadelphia the following week, and that was a game that also went to overtime with another well-known moment that we'll talk about next week. On this day in 1981, Red Right 88 went off the rails. Cleveland, we all feel for you. Until the Cavaliers won the NBA title in 2016, the entire country could feel your pain through a 52-year championship drought. The Browns suffered through the drive, the fumble. The Cavaliers had to deal with Jordan and the shot. Willie Mays robbed the Indians in the '54 World Series with the catch. Well, on this day, several years before the drive and the fumble, there was Red Right 88. I mean, that sounds too cool to be disastrous. And yet, it was. So, this is a playoff game between the Browns and the Oakland Raiders. The Browns had earned the number 1 seed in the playoffs after an 11-5 record and winning a tiebreaker with the Houston Oilers. They'd received a first-round bye, and they only needed to win a divisional playoff game against the Raiders and the AFC Championship, and they were headed to New Orleans for Super Bowl 15. Now, the Raiders were also 11-5, and this was not going to be a game in which they just rolled over for the Browns. Game time temp was 4 degrees, which made it the coldest NFL game since the Ice Bowl. Now, one thing to understand why Red Right 88 was even a consideration at the end of this game is that Cleveland kicker Don Cockcroft was having a really bad day. Though never a gimme, he missed a 47-yard field goal in the first quarter that would have put the first points on the board. After a Jim Plunkett fumble, the Browns had another opportunity to score, but Cockcroft shanked a 30-yarder. Since the offense and special teams couldn't light up the scoreboard, the defense decided to do it. Calling the action that day for NBC was Don Criqui and John Brody.
Well, let's see what they go to now. It's 3rd down and 3 for Oakland. No score on the board. 6:23 left to play in the first half. Plunkett takes a look. In the flat, he's intercepted. This will go for a touchdown. The ball is picked off by Ron Bolton. And into the end zone he goes. His second interception of the day. And the defense comes up with the first score of this football game. Ron Bolton with his second interception in the flat. They were going to Bob Chandler. Bolton took it, had a clear track into the end zone.
That was a 42-yard pick six, but Cockcroft's troubles continued when his PAT was blocked. Oakland was able to put together a scoring drive capped by a Mark Van Egan touchdown, and they were able to kick the ball through the uprights for the extra point, and they were able to kick the ball successfully through the uprights for the extra point, and it was 7-6 at the half. Cockcroft worked out his issues, or maybe he just warmed up the leg a little bit in the locker room, because he did kick 2 field goals in the third quarter to give the Browns a lead. But the Raiders answered that score with another one of their own, with Van Egan scoring his second 1-yard plunge of the day. Another PAT, and it was 14-12 Oakland. Late in the fourth, the Browns came up huge on defense again with 2 stops of Van Egan on a 3rd and 4th play and short runs preventing a first, and then getting the ball back with time winding down. A Brian Sipe to Ozzie Newsome connection for 29 yards and a Sipe to Greg Pruitt 23-yard hookup put the Browns in field goal range yet again. And of course, that's all they needed. But with Cockcroft's troubles in the first half, Browns coach Sam Ritigliano was wary of sending his kicker out to try to win it. So when he called timeout with 49 seconds left, he told Sipe to run Red Right 88, a pass play that would send receivers into the end zone. Ritigliano told Sipe to throw the ball into Lake Erie if the receiver was not wide open. And as you have probably figured out by now, if you did not know the history of this one already, it did not end well for the Browns.
49 seconds to go. Wrong. Into the end zone. Was it intercepted? Oakland intercepted the ball.
Michael Davis is the man that picked it off. That's just a great play at a very critical time. It even looked like Newsome might have come up with it. The Raiders didn't believe it for about 5 or 10 seconds.
Mike Davis was a notorious interception dropper in his career. He was the epitome of a DB is a DB, because if they could catch, they'd be wide receivers. But in this particular instance, against the hard-luck Browns, he caught it. For Browns tight end Ozzie Newsome, that interception crushed him for years.
Other than at some funerals, I've never seen a place go so silent as when that ball was intercepted. I had never experienced anything like that. We could have won the Super Bowl that year. We felt we were that invincible. We felt that good about ourselves. It took another 6 years for me to finally get that out of my system.
One other thing to know about this one, Cockcroft said many years later that he was far from 100% for this game. In an interview 30 years later, he said that he had 2 herniated discs in his back and needed 4 epidurals to just get through the season. He probably should have gone on IR. So the Browns were one and done in the playoffs, while the Raiders made the most of their good fortune by winning the AFC Championship game and then winning Super Bowl 15 over the Eagles. On this day in 1976, George Blanda, the oldest man to ever play in the NFL, played his final game. Now, Blanda is like the Paul Rudd of football. He just never seemed to age. He was drafted by the Chicago Bears in 1949 out of Kentucky, where he had played for Paul Bear Bryant. George Halas drafted him in the 12th round, and along with him playing quarterback, Halas also put him at linebacker. Blanda admitted that playing for Halas was great, but the legendary coach was also very well known for not paying his players very well. After 10 years in the league, Blanda retired from football due to a dispute over money with Halas and the Bears, and he followed the game from home during the 1959 season. And if there had not been a new league starting up, then that would have been it for Blanda, and his name would have been mostly forgotten, and I certainly would not be talking about him today. But the American Football League started up in 1960 as a competitor to the NFL, and the new Houston Oilers signed Blanda to a contract. Blanda was the first star of the new league, playing quarterback and leading the Oilers to the first 2 AFL championships in 1960 and 61. He was the league MVP in 61 after throwing for 3,330 yards and 36 touchdowns. Fun fact, in 1962, he was a Pro Bowler and named an All-Pro again, but after throwing 42 interceptions. 42, and that was in 14 games. Can you imagine if an NFL quarterback threw anywhere close to that now and not only kept his job, but was an All-Pro? And for comparison, Geno Smith led the NFL this season with 17 interceptions. So, after playing with the Oilers for 7 years, it looked like Blanda's career was over for the second time when the Oilers released the then 40-year-old Blanda. And that's when Al Davis saw value in the veteran and signed him to the Oakland Raiders. Over the next 9 seasons, Blanda played a little quarterback and kicked, though his biggest impact may have been as mentor to a young Kenny Stabler. Stabler was drafted in 1970 after also playing football for Bear Bryant, albeit 20 years later, and when he was at Alabama. But on this day in 1976, the 48-year-old Blanda kicked a 41-yard field goal and an extra point in his final game. He played 27 years in the NFL and the AFL in 4 separate decades and was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1981. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. The next time your significant other gets mad at you because you didn't wash the dishes, remind them that penicillin may not have been discovered if it wasn't for Alexander Fleming being a little bit lazy. You see, Fleming is credited with discovering penicillin back in 1928, and it's because he didn't wash the dishes. Though, to be fair, these were Petri dishes, and they languished more than overnight. He spent a month away with his family on vacation, and when he returned home, Fleming noticed that one of his Petri dishes of Staphylococcus had grown a mold that had wiped out the sample around it. That was curious, so he then purposefully grew the mold in a pure culture and discovered it had the power to wipe out pathogens. Now, it took a while to catch on, but once penicillin did, it was widely used to treat soldiers in World War II, and it saved thousands of lives. That's all I've got for you today. Come on back tomorrow for another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.